Culture Wars here on Morning Kicker on Friday as we kind of sit and marinate in the prospect of promotion and relegation in the United States. You think, what is going to be the details? The devil's in the details, right, Jason? We talked last week about promotion and relegation. Is that coming back to Mexico? And there are a variety of versions of promotion and relegation utilized around the globe. So which one of these would be best for the United States?
Do you think, Rob, that it needs to feel American in some way? Does it need to feel like it's got an element that we are used to? Like, for example, do you think our version of Pro Rel should involve some sort of playoff, maybe?
If it depends, I think there could be an element of the playoffs that I like, because as we work through the different versions of different countries, such as Brazil, they kind of have an average of multiple seasons. Mexico, the bar is high if it ever comes back. The Belgian league has a wild version where they split up the brackets, half the points, and do all sorts of stuff like that. But the version that I like, that seems very meritocracy based, but also includes a playoff, is a system that the Bundesliga incorporates. The bottom two teams, direct relegation. Bundesliga 2, top two teams go up, but the third to last and the third place in the second division play off in a two-legged match to get that third relegation / promotion spot. And that, to me, seems like the best way to marry some rural stakes. We know that the money levels and people's jobs and people's playing careers is on the line if you get relegated. And if you get to go head to head with that team that you're exchanging spots for, that's just, I feel like, golden entertainment that you could really market. And Americans very good at the market. I think you could make that, the $10 million match, so to speak.
Sure.
Between there. Yeah, and it's also meritocracy based, because if the 17th or the third to last place in the top division absolutely creams that second division team, then it's, you have a better team in the top league next year.
You are okay. So this is a little bit like the championship playoff, but also the relegation playoff in Germany. You're saying take a team from the top division and give them a safety net that if they can beat a team from the lower division, they will stay up. They don't have to go down. And I mean, obviously this depends on how many teams you're involving, right? Because in your scenario, let's just use the Bundesliga example. The Bundesliga has 18 teams. So we have 16, 17, and 18 are the teams that are in the relegation zone. But only 17 and 18 are automatically relegated. 16 plays in that playoff you described. So the top two teams from the second Bundesliga come up, but the third place team plays that 16th place team from the top division. Now, the problem, if I'm going to look for a problem there, my problem is it is so tilted towards the top division team in terms of the quality of the players via their salaries. If there is a big separation. Now, if we're applying this to the potential of USL relegation, I don't know how big that gap actually will be. And that's maybe something we can look at down the road. But what you're kind of outlining, it's a big game, but I don't think it feels as big as it would if the USL Championship and USL League One, the first division, if there were promotion playoffs, again, a la the championship in England. So the top two teams go up, and then you have a set of teams, 3 through 6, potentially in a league that's going to be big anyway. I mean, I know the first division might be fairly small to begin with, and we might be adding teams well before we start doing relegation, which I hope is not the case. But once you get to that point where you do have teams going up and coming down, then why not have your second division, your USL second division, have a built-in playoff? Because the prize is going up. Winning the league has less value. Like Leeds United might win the championship this year, but they don't care about that. What they care about is they've already been promoted to the Premier League next season.
That's all that
so
matters.
why not do it that way? And yeah, you don't have the safety net for the teams in the top division, and I think there will be some discussion. And as one of our members, Mike Thomas, said, the reality is probably that the owners are going to want to mitigate their risk. There, although again, I don't know how big the divide between the first division of USL and the second division of USL actually will be to start. There could be a day when there's a big gap, but at least in the beginning, it might not be that big of a deal unless it's just about pride, right? You just don't want to go down to the second division rather than it be something that might hurt your bottom line in a big way. But if you are now taking away for the second division that the championship is truly what matters, that's what you're playing for, are you going to do playoffs for that championship? Or are you just going to do playoffs to see who gets to go up to the top division? Because that's the prize.
I mean, what really draws people in? They want the reward after all of it, and I feel like with the United States not having any of it, it really leaves the slate wide open, because I feel like some of us will feel placated with something rather than nothing. Like if the bar is very high for promotion, so be it. I mean, I'd rather it not be unattainable. Like when we talked about the Mexican promotion and relegation, there was a lot of factors there, and it seems like that bar was made intentionally unreachable there in Mexico. So
okay. So you mentioned Belgium. Can we throw Belgium into this pot just for a second? Because okay. So there's the two sides to this coin. So the Belgian Pro League, the top division in Belgium, and we have to talk about the Belgian Pro League before we can talk about what happens in the second division. But the Belgian Pro League does this very odd thing where they play 30 matches and then they split the league in half or in three. I think they might do it in three, right? So you have the championship playoff, the Europa League playoff, and the relegation playoff. They call them playoffs, but it's more like a mini league, right?
Yeah.
So you split the league in three, and the top teams, they're playing to win the championship. They're playing to win the title. It is not, through 30 games, whoever had the most points is the champion. It is, you now play extra games, and there is a mathematical equation involved, Rob. They half the points or something, and then so you don't lose all your points, but you don't take them all with you into the second stage of the season. And then obviously at the bottom is that relegation playoff group, and those teams are playing against one another to prevent them going down, to save themselves, which I think is interesting too, because then you create a lot of drama towards the end of the season. Hey, we got to beat our rival or whoever. We got to beat this team to stay up. And even if those are not good teams, they haven't been good all year long. That's why they're in the relegation section of the table. You have drama baked in. It doesn't matter as much that they're not good.
We shall see, but there is even more confusing versions. What do you think was more confusing, the Belgian version or the Brazilian version? Because that one is pretty hard to get the head wrapped around, but I feel like it could almost be, it's a little confusing, but the way it's set up could be paralleled in the United States, because in Brazil, they have their regional and state. It's kind of wild. I'm researching that each state has its own federation so all the different leagues, there's regional season, and then they go into a national season. And I feel like, without getting too nitty gritty, because there's, all sorts of caveats to 4 teams relegated from the third, the best evaluated state rankings get you 4 spots. Second best to 9th place get you 3 spots, and the rest of the states get 2 spots. So there's quite a bit of nuance and a lot of digging in as far as the different regions have different ways to advance. But I think that the regional, I don't know if Americans would be able to understand a regional season and then a national season. That maybe seems like a stretch, but I think that it could be a something to take some cues from Brazil to try to marry the regional need for the new teams that are starting now, and then somehow connect to them to the national.
I think you might be wrong about the Americans understanding this, because again, is this not pretty much what college sports are? Big time college sports. You play in your conference
traditionally,
and you have a record. Things maybe are a little different now, but you play in your conference. You have a record in your conference. You may play other teams outside your conference in your schedule. I don't know. You have to figure out that part out. But then you go. Maybe you have a conference tournament. I don't know if you have time for that in soccer, but then you go to the national tournament. You go on to something else. I mean, I don't know that there is any league in America that wants to move in that direction, because then you do limit the possibility of matchups between teams from different parts of the country, because if you do it geographically. And there have been lots of people who have kind of imagined a world in which either you do geographical regions. What do we had that crazy pro rel idea that was thrown out in the late 80s by US Soccer that had all these multiple regions and things. That idea is intriguing to me, but again, you then sort of lock down and you don't have a national thing that you can sell. It's media rights now. So much of this is driven by TV deals and everything. You don't really want to limit yourself that way, which is probably why it won't happen. You could also do something a la Major League Baseball, where your divisions, your conferences are not geographically based. They're kind of just a random collection of teams from all over the country, and you divide them in half, and you say, "Oh, this is the blue conference, and this is the red conference, or whatever." I mean, that's something. I don't think so. I think and look again, Mike, keep it simple, stupid, right? That is probably a good thing in terms of what we're talking about for American soccer. Again, my vote would be to do a very English style approach where the teams at the bottom of the table, you're getting relegated. Then you have promotion playoffs coming up from that second division, build that excitement. Now, if you want to have playoffs to determine your champion in the top division, if you're lacking some drama, if you want to do playoffs within the top division to determine who goes down, I could see that also being a thing. So take that same promotion playoff, but make it a relegation playoff, but make it within the top division. So your bottom in a 20-team league, your bottom 6 teams are playing off.
So right now we would have or historically at least, DC United versus Chicago Fire for to stay in Major League Soccer is kind of essentially what that would translate to.
Sure, something like that. You would take those teams and you would say, all right, you guys are playing a 3-game playoff. Like the top 2 teams get a bye, and then the bottom 4 teams play the first round, and then you go in and you play at the home of the slightly higher seeded teams, and then obviously losers go. Losers are out. The other teams save themselves.
So ultimately, who are we trying to sell on this? The general American public, the hardcore nerds of soccer. This is trying to broaden the appeal, right? Simplicity would be the take, right? So I keep on falling back on the Bundesliga having the 2 straight spots, or at least maybe in American soccer, maybe we reduce that to 1 automatic spot, and then the inter division playoff. It seems the most straightforward, has some playoff a lot riding on the line, high stakes game that you can promote. And it all makes sense, because if that team that's a second or third place team in the lower division really isn't that good, then they don't get to inhabit the first division. I think that marries both the entertainment value and the merit aspect of it. And our own Josh Sargent, American, our favorite redhead number 9. He went through that when he was in Germany and survived, and didn't Werner Bremen survive in a very tight relegation battle there? So say in the chat, if you're watching this after the live show, what is the promotion and relegation version? Did we miss a variant of this? Throw that in the chat. And what do you think would be the best for the United States? An average of a couple seasons, 2 seasons, a promotion relegation spot, just straight up swaps? And how many spots? Should 1, 2, 3 teams exchange divisions each year? You think conservative start, but I'd like to hear what the MK Ultras have to say about the preferred version of promotion and relegation in the United States. If you are watching this show, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Have you subscribed yet? If not, hit that subscribe button. We are working to expand the MK Ultras as much as possible. The YouTube opens a lot more possibilities of what we're able to do with the more subscribers. I know I'm guilty of watching some channels and not hitting the button, but now I hit the button on almost anything I return to watch for a second time. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And now that we hit a certain level, we can now, we have launched memberships. So $3.99, you get priority commenting, badges, icons, emojis, early access to videos when we post them, and you can have that warmth in your heart that you are helping this program become sustainable and grow towards the future. Follow along on social media at MKickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also support us at coffee.com/morningkickaround. We've got some content over there and a number of very generous donations there. You can go as little as $5 or as much as you want, single time or regular occurrences. And if you can't watch us on the screen on YouTube, you can look us up on your favorite audio platform for the podcast version of Morning Kick Around.